Welcome to another installment of Ghost Stories. Today we're investigating ghosts on the trail.
Today we're going to go to an unnamed location. It is a trail me and Chance went on a walk a little bit ago, and there are some remnants, some concrete slabs, and pieces of possibly oil or water type pumps, and we decided to just practice some ghost huntings and try out ghost hunting and try out the Spirit Talker app for fun, and we had some interesting responses that seemed to correlate a little bit more than we thought they would. There's one that was, someone said Robinson, and then I said, "What's your first name?" And he said George, and then it came through. I think I asked if they lived here, and it said we lived close by, and then I asked how they died, and it said I was sick. So it seemed like very, one after the other, like answering the questions. And we had a couple other interesting responses like that. And then Chance, you heard something, right?
I heard what seemed like the step of basically somebody walking behind us on the trail. Their boot or something, basically pushing some rocks as if they maybe slipped or were walking steeply fast, if that makes sense. However, Willow did not hear it. We didn't see any animals or anything. I did have a very, very bright flashlight, so I feel like we would have noticed something, but we didn't hear any other noises or anything after that. So it was weird, made me feel uncomfortable a little bit. But yeah.
So, kind of an experiment. We don't actually know if there's any ghosts there, but it's going to be interesting. We wanted to bring some more equipment and practice, see what happens. Right now, though, we're going to go over a little bit of the history I found. I was not able to figure out what the remnants were from, but I'll keep looking into that and see if I can figure it out. But there is some interesting stuff in the area, so let's go over that. Alright. This area is known for mining and farming. Miners came to search for gold in 1858 and soon settled in Boulder in 1859. Farmers followed the miners to this new unsettled valley. But since Colorado is a high desert, it was an arid, dry landscape, and they needed to find a way to have more access to water. So by 1862, several irrigation ditches had been built. The first was dug in Boulder's first year. One of these ditches includes Farmer's Ditch, which stretches 7 miles across the fields and first neighborhoods. The ditches diverted water from existing creeks and rivers, as well as later piping it in from higher elevation sources in the mountains. These ditches also had laterals or smaller ditches which branched off from the main ditch and brought water to every house in many early neighborhoods. Farmer's Ditch even brought water to power the Yount flour mill built in 1866. The waterways created a network that connected the community together, flowing from natural streams and man-made irrigation from North Boulder down to the border of Niwot and touching the grounds of many neighborhoods and farms along the way. In the last 160 years, at least 15 people have died in Boulder's ditches, and I would assume likely more, since death records were not required in Colorado until 1908.
Keep away from the ditches.
And my research is not exhaustive of all the sources, so it's possible there's more. Let's see. So most of the deaths that are recorded were young children, and I have a list of those who died specifically in Farmer's Ditch, because it does go right. What are you laughing? Why are you laughing? This is not funny. Chance, we're talking about dead.
We are.
Okay.
Something else.
Okay. The Farmer's Ditch goes right past where the trail is. And there's a part that, like, I think I looked at an old map and it seems like it goes farther through it.
You think that's a dead guy ditch?
Well, I mean, there are people who have died there, like in the ditch. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying that it used to go more through the trail than it currently does, and I wonder if it's covered up underneath, like if it's still running underneath, because there are areas where they have like put the ditch underground, but it's still like running through there. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And then I was just gonna read off the names of the people that died. So we have
Moment of silence.
Joel Lee Chavez was 5 years old in 1948. Carolyn Gerardo, 17 months, 1943. Felix Herrera Jr., 21 months, 1934. Peter Folan, 2 years, 1929. Jean McKenzie, 20 months, 1917. And then in the Anderson Ditch, which I am pretty sure is a branch of the Farmer's Ditch, but I'm not 100% sure. There was also Richard James, 20 months, 1932. James Bonham, 2.5 years, in 1929.
There's a lot of babies falling in these ditches.
Yeah. And Annie Tantila,
Tantila.
9 years, in
She's a good one.
1975. That was like one of the later ones. And that one was unclear of which ditch she died in. But she was found
It was a ditch.
near Niwot Road, so I'm assuming it's the Farmer's Ditch or a close one. A lot of these records are hard to piece together. Like, the info is sparse. But
Just start going to archives or something like that.
yeah, I've been researching for like weeks, and this is still like only a piece together situation. But most recently, in 2019, there is a 50 to 60-year-old man who was discovered in Farmer's Ditch. At first, he was unidentified because he seemed to have been there for a really long time. But they found out it was Michael Berger from the mountain town nearby of Nederland. And he was found to have died from natural causes, I guess, of cardiovascular disease, aortic valvular lesion, and a valve defect, and protein-calorie malnutrition, which makes me feel like that means like starving, but I'm not 100% sure what that means. But there's not a lot of other info about him. I'm not really sure why he was there or where he was. Like they just found him in the ditch somewhere, but he lived in Nederland. So it's interesting. But it's hard to say if definitely some of these didn't occur at our location, and some of them I don't know for sure. They don't say. Some of them have like addresses, but where am I? This is difficult. But the ditch does like span quite a far ways, and I feel like because it like went up to all of these, like even up to every house in some neighborhoods, and like it was such a like important part of the community at the time. Like I just wonder if like there is a connection maybe that could be made because of the water, even though we're not in the same location. Like, because some people
you're
say
their juices came flowing down.
I'm saying
their ghost juices.
No, I'm saying that I'm trying to find the spot where I'm talking about so I don't like lose, but
some body parts came down.
No, just let me talk, please. I'm saying because like it was such an integral part of their life, like they wouldn't be able to grow food or like have clean water and farm and take care of their livestock, and like because it like connected all of these areas, And because like there are theories that paranormal activity is like amplified or somehow increased with water, like there are definitely locations that are more active that have water around them, and then also like people, I don't know, there's lots of different ideas, like I don't exactly know why, but some people think like it's easier that for them somehow to like move through water, or to like, or just somehow it like is easier for them to manifest or something.
I don't know. I feel like it sounds familiar. Something like maybe it's something to do like cause since the water's running, there's there's energy within it.
Yeah,
or
or something to do. I read something that was like something to do with the difference of like water molecules and stuff, or like I don't know. I was
thirsty ghosts.
confused about how to explain it, so I didn't put it in the info, but that is a theory. So like I'm just wondering if it would be possible to communicate with spirits from other areas that are connected to this ditch because it runs through all these areas, you know, like would it be possible that we can communicate with them even if they didn't die right on that exact spot? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Also, I don't know how far ghosts travel. Like, I have some things in here that are not, most stuff is not like the exact spot.
How far can the essence go?
But some people seem to think that, like, you know, I mean, they might be able to move around. I don't know. So,
traveling ghosts.
That's what we're gonna figure out. Okay, I think that covered most of this part, but, and you know, specifically, like, if they drowned in the ditch, like, could they still be connected to the whole of the ditch rather than just that spot, you know? I don't know. Thoughts? Maybe.
Is the ditch their home?
And you know, it just might also kind of like pick up some of that, like the energy and the history from like all those time periods that it's been used, because it's still in use today. Like, you know, it's very interesting. I read a lot about irrigation ditches. Now I know everything.
About a mile away sits the Boulder Reservoir, which was bought and turned into a recreational reservoir in 1954 from land belonging to the Axelson family dairy farm. Milk people. On November 16th, 1927, Bessie Anna Nelson Axelson, that's a lot of names, fell ill at 12 years old, was sick for a few days and passed away. She had been staying with her grandparents after her mother had died at their residence in the city, and her father was living in Denver. Denver? It is a bit hard to be sure, but we are assuming her grandparents would have been living on their dairy farm in that location at the time of her untimely death. I'm not reading this bad.
You're reading it great.
Great.
Gold star.
We also found a newspaper article talking about a man named Jose Lucero. He was 69 years old, and he drowned after his rowboat capsized.
Are you supposed to say it that way?
What? That wasn't racist, I don't think. You tell us, chat.
Maybe say it differently.
Down in the comments. Am I racist?
No, maybe say it differently. Because it's like a recent death.
What do you mean? That's a Spanish name.
Like, his relatives might still be alive, so I don't want them to be mad at us.
Because I'm just trying to be authentic. What do you want me?
Just read it normally.
We also found a newspaper article talking about a man named Jose Lucero. He was 69 years old, and he drowned after his rowboat capsized from the wind while boating on Boulder Reservoir with his son. That's a shame. In this article, it mentioned that it was the first time since 2005 that someone had died there, saying that the last death had been a swimmer who had had a heart attack while participating in a triathlon. Oh. But we were not able to find any more information. Nearby to Boulder Reservoir is 6 Mile Reservoir. That's a big one. In our research,
you could say why. It was like
what?
Whatever easiest.
Right. We found records of a farmhand who was found dead in a reservoir near 6 Mile Ranch in 1913. Well, we went from reservoir to 6 Mile Ranch.
Yeah. It's supposed to say right.
6 Mile Reservoir and 6 Mile Ranch?
Yeah, there's both.
There's a lot of shit on this place.
Okay. Do you want to reread that? It's like confusing you. What part did you get?
Do you want me to look back?
Yeah, look back.
Nearby to Boulder Reservoir is 6 Mile Reservoir. In our search, we found records of a farmhand who was found dead in a reservoir near 6 Mile Ranch in 1913, after he had been missing for 7 weeks. There are multiple articles with conflicting information, and we had a hard time determining if it was a 6 Mile Reservoir that it was referring to. We have not been able to determine where the 6 Mile Ranch was located. One article says east of Longmont, one says 7 miles north of Boulder. One even says it was on Divine Samuel's Ranch. Whoa, Divine Samuel. Instead of 6 Mile Ranch. Which one is this shit? It would seem logical that 6 Mile Reservoir would have had a connection to the 6 Mile Ranch, but we found that the reservoir existed at least as far back as we don't know what that says.
Where?
As far back as one but that's not always true.
What are you talking about? Where are you looking? Where? Oh, what? What the hell? Why is that not in there?
So we
We'll
have
put the date
some
in.
missing information. We'll put it over the screen.
I think it was like 1902, but I'll put it in if I'll find it.
Back as one but.
What the hell?
But that's not always true. Either way, the man's name was John Fisher. He was a Russian Jewish man of 45 with a wife of 2 kids who were still back in Russia. Oh, that's sad. He had a night off from work and went to Denver, where he supposedly got into trouble somehow and was clubbed over the head by a policeman. Nothing's changed. Then he made his way back to the ranch he worked on. Again, we're not quite sure which ranch it was. He apparently had been acting queerly, or maybe ill. Don't take that wrong. Then he disappeared. There are numerous theories of how he ended up in the lake. One says no. Sorry, I can't read very well. I'm illiterate. One says no question about it. Suicide. A lot of the time. Another wonders if he was disoriented by the blow to his head and stumbled accidentally into the lake, or perhaps he was mixed up that he still.
So mixed up.
He was so mixed up that he still imaged the police officer.
Still imagined
the police officer to be pursuing him and tried to escape by throwing himself into the water.
That was someone's theory.
Bad choice if he did that. It does seem a little bit odd, honestly, why you would do any of that, but we'll figure it out. We'll ask him.
We'll figure it out.
We also found that there was a double murder that we're quite certain happened about 3.9 miles of our location. That's pretty accurate.
I was really getting on the Google Maps. Really, just real precise.
You zoomed in a lot. Perhaps closer if you didn't have to obey property lines and stay on trails and roads.
And it gave me directions, so
okay.
It was pretty. Although I could be wrong.
We're gonna go straight to the murder.
I don't think it's there anymore.
Oh, okay. Shame. On the Slindy Ranch.
I know. I wasn't sure if it was Slind or Slindy. I kept saying Slindy.
On the Slindy Ranch, 4 miles west of Dodds Lake, September 11th, 1919, 21-year-old Orrin Slindy murdered his father, Old Slindy Slindy, as well as a ranch hand, William P. Fulmer. He murdered them that morning. He buried his father in a shallow grave under a pile of manure. Ew. And then he dumped the farmhand in an irrigation ditch. That's a lot nicer. I'd be ditching it, not shitting it. Then he confessed He confessed easily to the sheriff that afternoon, who had been tipped off by the ranch's housekeeper, who had heard Orrin shoot his father and ran to the neighbors. The articles covering this are all over the place with the details. Some say Asher Holfrenson, the housekeeper, actually witnessed the murder. Some say she just heard some of it. One speculates Orrin murdered his father because he put down his favorite dog that morning. But Orrin, as far as the articles say, never mentioned this. And most accounts just say he was insane without much other explanation. Was it 1919? That's pretty much what they do. He's crazy, fucking.
Yeah, but there's literally no other motive, explanation, nothing.
They didn't try it. They were just he did it. Put him in.
Yeah.
They also couldn't agree on his age, 21, 22, 20, or how to spell his name. So I assume it's hard to pin down the exact facts in this case. It's like a game of telephone in these old newspapers. But we do know that Slindy Slindy showed the sheriff we were buried. Sorry, I can't talk.
Why did you say Slindy Slindy?
But we do know that Slindy Slindy showed the sheriff where he buried his father, and his father, old Slindy Slindy, and that he pled guilty, ended up with a life sentence. Is that like what do they call it? Like Washington v. Slindy Slindy or something?
What?
The court case?
No, that's
No?
only if you like appeal. I think I don't know. I don't know how court cases work. That's like if you're fighting it. James? Okay. You got to that part? Okay. His sister Sadie Slindy did request there to be an evaluation of his sanity before the trial, and later after he was sentenced in February, it is said that he was declared to be insane by a special commission who was reviewing 43 convicts, and they decided 26 of them should be sent to an insane asylum. But somehow he appeared to not have been sent to the asylum, because there is another article in 1926 mentioning a man who visited the state penitentiary and was told by the guard, "Old Slindy is totally insane." Jan! And Oren's attorney, Mr. Johnson, commented for the article that he was better off in prison than he would be at the state insane asylum because he had an individual ward at the pen and doesn't have to be, quote, herded in with the others at the asylum. So they knew how bad they were even back then.
They just didn't really care, I guess.
I guess.
They cared for Slindy Slindy.
Oh my god. But yeah, so I guess he stayed in the penitentiary.
And he died
Which is weird. I don't know. I didn't get all that info. But it did happen pretty close to our location, so I don't know. Maybe we'll get to get some more information. Hopefully he doesn't like.
You can ask him, is it Slindy or Slindy?
I don't know if we're gonna be able to figure that. Maybe
Just give it a shot.
We'll try. Okay. In addition to accident, what did I write in here? I didn't have a lot of time to edit this, obviously. I tried. Okay. In addition to accidental deaths, and at least a few strange murders, surely more than we know, because there's a lot of murdering going on back then. I was reading other articles and stuff, but they weren't close enough that I felt it necessary, but there's a lot of murdering happening.
They just went at it.
It was like really, really small reasonings, and I'm like, is this really why everyone's murdering each other? Just because,
he owed me $20.
Like this one guy was like, I only murdered him because he insulted my spiritualist wife, and it was like,
Called her a bitch.
That's it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Times were intense back then.
Times were terrible.
Okay, but on a more serious note, maybe get a little serious. Okay. Let me find my place. Okay, so I also found articles that brought to light the presence of the KKK in this area, which I was not that aware of. Although the Klan was originally a more southern state organization, its first emergence beginning in Tennessee in 1866 in the Reconstruction era, when all states were forced to ratify the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which supported the ideas that formerly enslaved African Americans deserved citizenship and voting rights. The KKK resisted these ideals, obviously, and they violently targeted black Southerners as well as white Republicans who supported the Reconstruction and integration of the South. But in 1871, they passed some different acts to end the Klan's activity at that time. But in 1915, started back up again. The second iteration began in Georgia, and by the early 1920s, it had made its way to Colorado. reaching peak membership in 1925.
Peak membership.
And it was apparently pretty out in the open, because there was even a newspaper in Boulder, Colorado in 1925. It only ran for 6 months, because then things went downhill, but yeah, just way out in the open. Let's see. So in 1925, there were some scandals and investigations of leaders that ultimately weakened the position and led to the decline. There were apparently many prominent members of Colorado state government, such as governors, Supreme Court judges, town council members, and members in the district courts, and even the Denver police chief and mayor. According to an article I read, the KKK in Colorado was popular not only for its racist ideologies, but also for its community events. Evangelical Protestants saw the KKK as similar to other organizations like the Elk Lodge. A variety of local Klan events, including auto races and picnics, drew up to 10,000 people. Although people may have focused more on these social aspects, I'm pretty sure there's a lot more going on. And they still had anti-black, anti-Catholic, anti-immigrant, and anti-Jew ideals. And they were likely not all picnics and family gatherings. The first chapter had been documented to use violence and commit heinous crimes, so I did not necessarily find specific articles about that in Colorado, but I would assume that that probably also happened.
It's the KKK.
Yeah.
It's expected from them.
Yeah. Plus, there's also shady business happening. Anyways, with the leaders and stuff, because they did the investigations into like the higher ups and stuff, and there was quote, an absolutely abhorrent attack by the Grand Wizard on his secretary, who later died from her wounds, and obviously is convicted on those charges. That was according to an article from the Denver Public Library. And then the Colorado Grand Dragon, which I think is just the person who's in charge of like Colorado specifically.
Whoa. The Grand Dragon?
Yeah, you don't know the names?
No, I'm not clan with them.
I know. We've learned about this in school. Being investigated for...
Okay, they were not telling us about the Grand Dragon in school. What are you
They probably mentioned it. I don't know. Okay, anyways. He was being investigated for tax evasion.
Sounds about right.
And then there was other investigations that were led by an attorney, Philip Van Cise, and State Judge Ben Lindsay, as well as others who opposed and actively fought against the Klan's political control.
Political control? I've seen those before. They're bad.
Okay. God, why did I mention this stuff so much? I'm so sorry. I really should have reread this one more time before I thought I read through it, but there's some stuff that's like repeating stuff. Okay. Why am I telling you so much about the KKK? So about 15 minutes drive away from tonight's location in 1924, there were many reports called in about a burning cross that had been risen up on Haystack Mountain, and people also said there were hundreds of men seen around the hill, one article saying there was at least 300 cars parked surrounding it. It appeared as if the neighbors calling in were concerned, at the very least irritated with the activity, but apparently it continued most of the night and they gave up trying to phone the authorities at about midnight. But yeah, so I mean, I didn't necessarily find any specific articles and things about deaths, but associated with the KKK in Colorado, but I would assume that there probably were some violent crimes and things that happened, and they may not even be recorded, so, you know, I think it's still relevant to the area, the vibe of spirits that may or may not be around. And it does make me wonder if there are any restless souls who are harmed and still lingering around in the seemingly peaceful farms and valleys. And
Lingering.
it's a bit of a nasty time in the history that I didn't know about, so I thought it was interesting. But I do hope that they found peace and they're not lingering around. And as someone who is investigating the paranormal, we unfortunately have to be aware of some painful and disturbing parts of history and life. And if we do encounter any souls who suffer terrible things, I hope maybe in a small way, listening to them might help them in some way. With that in mind, I think it's important we also give some background on the Native American history and influence in this area. Though I can't say exactly what happened in this exact spot, there has been at least 3 archaeological sites nearby that have found tools, fire pits, ceramic remains, and evidence of game processing dating back to 5,500 BC, 3,300, 1 to 1550 AD, and up to 2,000 years ago. And at another location, a Boulder landscaper actually stumbled upon a collection of tools that had animal fibers and DNA from 13,000 years ago. It was pretty nuts.
Whoa.
Do you want to read the last bit starting up here?
Well, it's a great history that we don't really know much about. In the more recent past, the Ute and Arapaho are the tribes most associated with the area, as well as Native American tribes, as well as a likelihood of the Gros Ventre people. What? Being here as well
That's supposed to be a tribe.
for quite some time. The Utes were known to have territory that spanned all of Colorado for hundreds of years before the settlers even showed up. And the Arapahoes came around the 1600s and began to take up territory in the Boulder Valley, pushing the Utes closer towards the mountains. That was rude. A well-known part of Boulder history is the story of Chief Niwot, also called Left Hand by the English speakers. Is that where that comes from? Mm-hmm. And the Sand Creek Massacre. A group of Nebraska prospectors who were intending to search for gold higher up in the mountains came to the valley in the fall of 1858. They camped near Red Rocks and encountered Chief Niwot, the leader of the southern band of Arapaho. He knew English and spoke, can't talk. He knew English and spoke clearly with them. He agreed to let them stay until spring when they would move along to the mountains. In January of 1859, there was gold discovered in a nearby stream by today's Gold Hill area, and they decided to make their stay more permanent. Of course they did. Founding the Boulder City Town Company, it sounds weird, and sending word to others, creating a boom of settlers coming to the valley. Oh, you ruined it for these natives. This overwhelmed the natives. Oh, there we go. Although Chief Niwot was still trying to keep peace, even as he tried to maintain their own lands and boundaries with the newcomers. But tensions continued to escalate. In 1861, the year Colorado officially became a territory, a treaty was signed that reduced the Indian land to 1/10 the previous size. The treaty encouraged peaceful Indians to make their way to the small barren area in southern Colorado by the Big Sandy Creek. Those who chose to move were promised protection and safety for their people. Niwot led his band to the new reservation along with some Cheyenne and another band of Arapahoes. By 1864, the governor John Evans wanted the Indians gone and saw them as being in the way of progress. Of course. He began recruiting soldiers to kill hostile Indians. And damn Indians, so hostile.
Chicken.
I messed up. Where are we?
What? You just turned the page. Should we leave that in there?
They also received authorization from Washington, D.C. to do so. But Evans seemed to consider any Indians hostile. even if they were relocated over 40 miles away from Boulder. They're just like, kill them all, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure how they're in the way.
They're just, I don't know, they need that land. I don't know. We want it.
Yeah.
That's all. On the 29th of November, 700 troops of a 1st and 3rd Colorado Cavalry of U.S. volunteers went to Sand Creek and killed, they volunteered for this, went to Sand Creek and killed an estimated 230 Arapaho and Cheyenne people, many of them women and children, and one of them was Chief Niwot himself. And we decided to honor him by just naming a small town. What a great way to fix this.
It's not even pronounced right.
It's not?
It's Noah, I guess.
Niwa?
Noah.
Niwa?
That's what I was told by
Niwa?
I might be saying it wrong too.
Interesting.
I went to like a talk by this guy in Iowa who's like a Native American historian.
Interesting.
That's what he said.
Many of the cavalry were known to the Boulder residents, and they reportedly received a hero's welcome when they returned home. Ooh, volunteer for the slaughter, and you're a hero. The nation was horrified by the events of the Sand Creek massacre. Even President Lincoln demanded an investigation to figure out what happened. The leaders, including the governor, were removed from their offices, and Colorado placed under martial law. However, no one ended up being legally punished for the murders that took place. So it was pretty much just all for show. And they were like, oh, we don't like this, so, martial law, and then you didn't do anything.
I guess so, yeah.
What the fuck? If you're from the Boulder or Niwot area, you've probably also heard of Chief Niwot's curse. It is said that he told the settlers before he dies that people seeing the beauty of this valley will want to stay, and their staying will be the undoing of the beauty. Growing up in Colorado, this is a rather haunting statement that rings all too true to me. Or, true to us. It could apply to all of modern society even, but it does speak to the way in which the influxes of people move in Colorado. The more and more we pave open space to build subdivisions and malls and parking garages, the more we encroach on the natural beauty that is part of the draw for being here. Why can't I read? The less of it we have, the less of it we will have to admire. Yeah, it's getting ruined. Get out of our goddamn state.
Oh my god, Chip.
Nobody wants you here. The less we take care of and revere the land, the more we will demolish and use it up. Why can't I read?
Do you want me to read this?
I'm falling apart, maybe. Oh.
I'm falling on Earth?
Happens
Which
when I
part
read
are you
books.
at? Okay, the less we take care of and revere the land, the more we will demolish and use it up. But what happens when there is nothing left, when we have forgotten the abundance and beauty of the earth and our connection to it? When we separate ourselves, we lose so much. We are lonely, we are blinded, we do not see all that we have around us. We can justify to kill that which we deem as the other. But we are all a part of the same organism, all cut from the same cloth of the universal oneness. Besides the words of Chief Niwot and the tragedies associated with some of the people of Boulder at the time, as well as a connection to the surrounding areas, I feel that even if we don't know what may have happened at this exact site we're going to, it is relevant to know what kinds of history and energies may still exist on the land. It is theorized that certain materials may be able to hold a place memory, that is, to basically have an imprint left of events from the past, which at some locations may even repeatedly play over and over the same time each day it happens as it did before. That is where you get more residual energies, as they call them. You might see a ghostly figure at the same time and same place every night, or hear the same sound as the memory repeats itself. Generally, this is thought to not so much be an actual entity or spirit consciously doing these actions, but more so like the recording of the past. Some materials thought to be more powerful for holding this energy are limestone quartz, and sort of wood. I've heard that a little bit on different stones. And sometimes water as well. But I honestly think there are many places where you can still feel the history, and it doesn't have to be just a certain material. Though certain ones could maybe amplify it more. Quartz crystal has been used to record data, and it's used in computer chips, and they have experimented with storing data on quartz disks, and we do have a large amount of quartz naturally occurring in this area. Perhaps between the naturally occurring materials, the man-made waterways, and the many aspects of history, both recent and very old, we will discover some souls still tied to this land. Maybe there are recordings of the past still playing out. Maybe we can discover even more about this area and its very past, and maybe be able to bring light to the ghost stories of this quiet little trail in the valley.
We're off to see Slendy Slendy, or we're gonna find these ghosts.
Yeah. I was thinking we could pull a couple of cards to maybe get an idea of what we might expect or something. So I'm just gonna do that real quick.
A little black magic.
What?
Little the devil cards.
They're not devil cards. Okay. Anyways, these are some oracle cards. They're supposed to give you messages. Spirit guides and angels. Can you give me a preview of what we can expect on our investigation? Oh, that's too bad. It doesn't look.
They want us to know a lot. A lot is gonna happen.
My God. Okay. Is that a full chunk? That's too many chunks. Can I get like just a one? Okay, well, what does this one say? I mean, it says moon. It says moon. Pay attention to intuitive messages. God, we're so bad at this. Okay, whatever. Okay, can we get one more card for what to expect? What does that mean? It says. Okay, it says 5 of Michael. The situation doesn't serve you. Release your attachment to the outcome. Consider taking a more uplifting approach.
I don't know.
That's kind of just sketching me out a little bit.
Willow?
Does that mean we shouldn't do this?
Just said be positive about it. I don't know.
Okay, alright. I wasn't going to try to make it not positive.
What do you mean by that?
Can we get some more information? What does that mean? Oh. The star, Archangel Jophiel.
Jophiel?
A dream come true. Believe in yourself. The end of a difficult situation.
Dream come true, but approach it with positivity.
Don't be attached to how it turns out.
But also,
Or
it's a dream.
Maybe. How do we take a more uplifting approach? I thought I was going to be uplifting.
I thought we were doing pretty good.
I'm questioning everything now. Okay, well, that's going to be interesting. I don't know what
We have to wear clown outfits?
I don't know. Okay. Well.
Why was Michael? I don't know why, but I like that name.
You mean like Archangel Michael?
Sounds like it should be like a band of like 5 guys named Michael. You want to go see 5 of Michael?
If you touch it, I'll give you a biscuit. It's got chocolate chips. Am I crazy? This is happening? May or may not have just seen a UFO. It was really strange. I don't know if you can even see me in this camera, but what the fuck was that? That was like, okay, literally like a huge.
Rocky! That's not my Scooby voice. It'll get better. It's been a while. Rocky. No.
Is John Fisher here? Or one of the Slendies? Or the Slimes?
Oh, Cindy's Lindy.